Okay, I think I have my microphone issue sorted out, and so we're back to taking some great notes. This lesson is going to be about um, creating graphs from Microsoft Excel. So far, we've entered data in, and we've used some formulas to get some new data, and then we're going to talk about how we're going to represent that data with graphs. And so I have some different data here that we're going to talk about. If we go back to, hello, go back to, this is one of the things that you did the other day, and this is graphing our fake charity walk or walkathon. We've got ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, and I want to graph their total distances. I'm going to compare each of the grades' total distances that they did in the walkathon. So one of the things you have to do is decide how you're going to represent your data. Oh, I want a graph. Okay, well that's great, but you have to decide the correct type of graph. Not all data fits different kinds of graphs. So we need to choose the right one. And so depending on what you're trying to show, if I want to compare how the ninth, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade did on the walkathon, their total distances, that's a comparison between um, different categories of things, right? So different grades. And so I'm going to use a bar or column graph for that. And now, so if I just highlight all my data in my data table, and this is something that unfortunately some 6th or 7th graders would do, right? I can highlight it all and then um, try to have Excel make a graph out of it. All right, so let me make a column or a line graph. All right, it's saying now it's a lot smarter than it used to be. It used to just try, okay, and so it's saying, well, wait a second, what do you want to graph here? You want to graph A3 through D8? That's A3 all the way through D8. Is that really what you want to? Is that really what you want to graph? And I will pretend that I don't know what I'm doing. It's not really pretending, Mr. Bossard. You don't. Yeah, okay. But we're going to try. So, okay. So it's saying, no, this is no good. You can't really do this. All right. So again, I'm going to just start with the data that I want to graph. That's the data, right? The grades are the labels. The total distance is the data. So I'm going to graph that. And again, it's a comparison, so I'm going to use a bar graph. Where do you want the spark lines to be placed? I don't know what that means. Hmm. Excuse me 1 second. Excuse me while I... Alright, so we're going to make a line graph out of this. I'm sorry, a bar graph or column graph. Now, it's important to know that my graph right now is not very good because it doesn't have any labels, but it has the data graph properly. So the steps I did is I highlighted it and then asked Excel to create the graph. Now in science you're going to talk about independent and dependent variables. The independent variable, and this is something we need to write down, the independent variable is the variable that is changed, and the dependent variable is the variable which you're recording the data, how you're recording the data, right? What you have recorded. So in this case, the class or the grade would be the independent variable, and so we have a change of 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. And how we've recorded the data is we've recorded the total distances that each of them walked. And so that recorded data, in this case the total distance or number of miles, that's the dependent variable. The independent variable is the thing that was changed, and that is the grade. The dependent variable is what is measured. Your science teachers always want your independent variable, what you're changing, to be on the x-axis, the horizontal axis. And they want your dependent variable to be on the y-axis, or the vertical axis. So make sure that we don't choose a bar graph, we choose a column graph. All right? And there's lots of different things that you can do, different styles. Um, you know, however you want to go ahead and, whatever feels terrific to you. I think we know that I'm going to say that you make a good decision, and I'll support your good decision. A lot of times the easiest one is the best one. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and now notice I'm in Chart Tools, Design. All right, and I'm going to do select data, and the things that I'm going to change on here, it has the chart data range. That's where the data is, and notice it's got my little dancing guys here, and that's the data, so that's right. All right. I don't really need a legend. You don't always need one. Okay. Oops. Sorry, I must have done something inappropriate. Okay. So what I want to do here is I want to change the horizontal or the x-axis labels. Now it says 1, 2, 3, 4. I want them to say what? Hopefully you said 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grades. So I can say what cells those in, or I can just go and highlight them. All right. And notice it's really nice thing is it just plops it right in there. Okay. Now again, I'm going to format, and that changes how the thing looks. All right. And I could change, if I want to change the color of the bars, I can do that. Okay, however you want to go ahead and do that. If I click once, it highlights the section. If I click a second time, it's just going to talk about that particular one. So maybe I want each of the different grades to be a different color. And you can go ahead and do that. It sounds like super fun, right? That was super fun. Okay. So the different elements. All right. So the chart elements are the things that I want to change here, right? I got the axis titles, okay? That's going to talk about what those things are. So on the vertical, or the horizontal axis, the primary horizontal axis, all right? Those 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grade, those are the grades. All right, are the classes, and you can, alter it any way that you like. Oh. There we go. That's a little better. Where do you want it? Right there. Awesome. I'm going to go ahead and add the vertical axis. And again, this is something that 7th graders often make a mistake on. 500, 1,000, 1,500, 2,000. What? You don't want to put total distance there because they're not 2,000 total distances. You can say that they're total distance in miles. Or you can just say miles. Or total distance in miles. And then the chart title, right? It is difficult to come up with a good title. So you want to do walkathon total distances. You don't want it to be too big of a title, but you want to make sure that it is appropriate and it talks about, you can totally describe and understand what's going on from the title, walkathon total distances. Oh, the ninth graders in the walkathon must have had a total distance of 2,500 miles. And so immediately, from the chart, I can get that information. All right, and I can also see the 11th grade was the most. This is the red bar is the highest, right? And if I wanted to, this is almost 4,000, this is 2,500, so clearly there was about a 1,500 mile difference between the freshmen and the juniors. So your graph or your chart has to have data, right, which it does. It has to have appropriate labels on the axes, right, which it does. Titles are the axes, a title for the thing, and could have a legend or a key if necessary. Right? Not necessarily all the time, but all the time we will. Okay. And so that's a bar graph. This data I have over here, this is Mr. Bossart's class's favorite color. So we'll pretend that I surveyed my classes, and out of the 23 students, these are the colors that came up. Again, if it's only 2 columns, I can highlight. I typically would prefer that you only highlight only the data to start. All right, I'll make a little chart. But because here I could graph as a comparison, so I could do a bar graph. But because this data is data that can be made a whole, right? It is parts of a whole. Because it's parts of a whole, we can use the pie graph. Okay. Try not to you don't want to make a pie graph. Like if I went back to my walkathon total distances, I could make a pie graph out of that because there's a total amount, I guess. But looking down, like here at the students and their quiz averages, right? You wouldn't want to make a pie graph out of this data because it's not really out of a total amount. Because each one is their score out of 100. So there isn't like a total, like this person got the most points or whatever. So again, very easily, I decided to make a pie because these were parts out of the whole. I'm going to select the data. Right? And again, I'm going to change the horizontal axis labels. Right? And it asks me the axis label range. It's where are these labels? Well, they're right over here. So I'll highlight those. It plops them right into the thing. Now probably, I don't want this one to be red, so I would probably, fill that with red, I would think. It'd be really confusing. Oh no, what happened? Well, I clicked, and I just clicked on the data, or the pies, and so it highlighted all of them. I wasn't really paying attention, was I? So now, if I click now, I'm just clicked on this one pie section, and that should be red. This next pie section should be yellow, so I'm going to fill that to be yellow. You know what? I didn't like how that turned out. It's really very annoying, so I'm going to try to go back. Okay. So again, I click once in the area, and now you can see those bars around the whole chart. So whatever thing I do will affect the whole chart. Click into this section, and I've got all the pie pieces highlighted. Single click one more time there, and now I'm just talking about that particular one. Oh, and it looks like I undid my labels, so I got to go back here and put them in. Sorry about that. All right, and then again, click in here. All of them are click one more time. So now just that particular piece is the red, and I'm going to actually make that red. That makes sense. Can I do it? Yes, I can. All right, this is supposed to be yellow, so click on that one. Let's make that yellow. All right, and you see how I can do that. I could change the chart title. Now this would be Mr. Bossart's class favorite Any chance I typed that right? My computer's lagging behind, so let's see how good my typing is. Mr. Bossart's class Faviori. That's not so good. How do I fix that? V-O. Oops. Favorite? Favorite. Where's the R? There it is. Okay, favorite colors. That's pretty good. Now, if I want to actually find put the labels in there, okay, I can add the chart element, the data labels. I want to put them in the center. I want to put them in the inside and outside it. Best fit. Data call out. I don't know what that means. So it looks like it's talking about the percent. So again, I might, more data label options. So you kind of have to make a decision based on what yours is. Do I want the percent? I don't think I want the percent. Okay, so I did more data label options, and then over here some things came up. Do I want the category name? Now notice, I just have this one highlighted. So if I want to highlight all of them, I got to kind of come out and then go back in. All right. Bring me the more data label options, and it comes in over here. And get rid of percentage. I do want the value though, right? And again, you can mess around with it to get it the way that you like. But the key point here for this particular one was that this was parts of a whole, and so I can make a pie graph out of this. And the other kind of graph that we're going to talk about here is this is a line graph. And the reason that this is a line graph is because I've got the climate in Detroit, Michigan, average high temperature, average low temperature in the different months. This is showing a change over time. And if you're going to show a change over time, in other words, your independent variable is time. If your independent variable is time, or how time is progressing or moving along, showing some sort of chronology, if your independent variable is time, then that is going to indicate a line graph. If your independent variable is not time, or some sort of measurement of time, you cannot use a line graph. So if I want to graph the average high, right, something very simple, I highlight the data, click on that little thing, chart, I'm going to use a line graph. Okay. Again, different chart, you want to see the little dots. That's pretty cool. That shows you the value in there. Looks like I got to do some things about some of these other the labels. I kind of like this one. All right, so I'm going to use this one, I think. Oh boy. All right. And where do you put it? Well, let's just put it for right here for now. Okay. So again, I've clicked on there. I'm going to select my data. This is going to help me say where the labels are. All right, the label range. All right, those things. In other words, since my independent was time, where are the times? They're right there, and you can see now that it puts in the time down there. And go ahead and go to chart element. You want to add axis titles, the horizontal axis title. Those things are, what are those? Those are months, right? So if I can type it all. And the vertical axis, right? Those are degrees Fahrenheit. All right, so 31 what? 39. It's not 31 Fahrenheit. It's 31 degrees. And you could say Fahrenheit if you want. And clearly this is the average high temperature in Detroit. Ooh, not bad. We're not being able to see. Temperature in Detroit. Okay. So that's pretty good. And again, oh no, I don't, like, I want my label to be a different color. I want, I actually like that one. It's kind of my fave. But again, if you want to change colors, you got kind of a different sequence or series in here. It's kind of cute. There's a lot of different choices, and you can use one of theirs, just like you can use a formula that Excel has, or you can use your own customized. You can customize it any way you want. If you want to make each of these little balls, you want to insert a picture or change the, format the data label. You want to insert a picture or do something else. You can go ahead and do that. All right, this is talking about the number and the data label. And it is a number. You want to have two decimal places, 73.00. Again, that doesn't make any sense for ours. So you have to go. I mean, a lot of this is making your own decision, and and having Mr. Bossert support your decision or whatever. But again, as long as your thing has all this, you've chosen the right type. So let's review the types of graphs that we have. Okay. The first one we did was a column or bar graph, and that was because we were comparing. The data showed comparison, and so the different categories of the general thing were the independent variable. Right, different categories, and we're comparing the results of those different categories. So that's a bar graph. The second one we did was also a comparison, but it was comparison of data that could be made up of parts of a whole. And so each part becomes its own pie piece, and so we could use a circle graph or pie chart for that. The third one was a line graph, and again, if your independent variable is time, you can use a line graph. Okay, this was kind of a long session, but thank you for all that, and we will explore and create different types of graphs in class. Thank you. Namaste.